It's so good.
Like it.
Just in time here. Okay,
Yeah,
so Governor, your team wants me to start.
You're the show.
And then Dan. Okay. Everyone here? Welcome. Thank you for being here. Perfect Duluth day. Lovely, lovely weather. Come on in. There's room if you want to cover under. My name is Emily. I'm Mayor of Duluth. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Very happy to have Governor Walz here today. Dan Olson with LIUNA. You'll hear from the three of us. We want to talk about the incredible bill that Governor passed that was championed at the legislature, including Senator McEwen, to invest in lead remediation throughout the state of Minnesota. Behind us is a project, and Jim Benning is our staff lead who does all of this, and I think many of you know Jim, so you can talk with him later. This is a project that the city of Duluth is funding through ARP funds, and it is the first. This is one of the first projects that we're doing large scale to get to homes to help replace the private line, and we know that there is a cost to that. We are thrilled with the funding through the state of Minnesota to help meet private homeowners in meeting the cost of that. And I will say, first of all, should have said, welcome to my neighborhood. Many of you know I live just a couple blocks over and a couple blocks up, and I got the very same letter that this homeowner did, letting them know that you have a private lead line. And so it has been important for me to experience this as well as a resident, along with 6,500 so far identified households across the city of Duluth. We know, and I know Governor will speak to the cost of lead, what it means not just to remediate it and to address it with the infrastructure, but what it means when we don't. And so we are just tremendously grateful for this. We are currently estimating that maybe up to 9,000 households in the city of Duluth will need to have their lead line replaced, and we are excited that we are using ARPA funds here and will be leveraging the state funds. Already, over the last year, we've been working on this, and I'm proud and so grateful for our staff. We are thrilled to have the state's investment, and this is also something that we have been working on, and we had positioned a $10 million request to the legislature to partner with us to address our lead lines. I know that we are ahead of other communities in terms of how we are mapping and how we are learning about this and how we're strategizing around funding, but I also know that we have a lot to learn. So I do just want to say a couple more things, and you're going to hear from Governor, then you'll hear from Dan Olson, because it's also a job creation entity that we're going to talk about. It's a job creation bill. This is a whole crew working on one house. We've got what we think are 9,000 households in Duluth. This is going to be a huge job creation opportunity. The city of Duluth does have a water pitcher program. It works. I know this because we did it at our house. Our lead count decreased by half by using this filtered water pitcher. And so if you have gotten the letter, you can call that number and kind of get that started. We're continuing to do the inventory on lead line services, and residents are automatically entered into the lead removal program when a lead service is identified. So you will be notified as a property owner if that's the case, and you'll be notified well in advance of when a project is being planned in your neighborhood or for your home. So with that, Governor, I want to thank you for your extraordinary partnership and leadership. We go a ways back.
We do.
And I have always been grateful for how you prioritize Duluth and this region, the health of all of our residents, and congratulations on the opportunity to sign this bill and for your leadership to address health in our community.
Well,
so with that.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Mayor Larson, it is always great to be in Duluth. This is one of America's great cities. It's a city that is preparing for the future, whether it's the port, the construction you see down here, the potential for growth, but it's always a community that prioritizes its citizens' health. So I'm incredibly grateful to that. What you're seeing going on behind us is going to be going on in every community across Minnesota for about the next decade, and that's the removal of lead lines. I'm going to give a huge shout out to Duluth's own Senator McEwen, who was the chief author on this, along with Sydney Jordan, and she had some great help up here from Representative Olson and Kozlowski to make the point on this. This is one of the things that government should do. These are one of the things that service that people expect their government to do to protect them and to protect their children. We know, and the science is very clear on this and has been for quite some time, no amount of lead exposure is good at all. It's a heavy metal that sets in the central nervous system. When we did the study with the Minnesota Department of Health in 2019, it's estimated that as a minimum, the cost of lead poisoning, in decreased mental acuity, the costs that go into it, in behavioral outcomes, health outcomes, is about $4 billion. So for the folks who say, wow, you're spending all this money to put into this, it's going to cost us about $800 million to $1 billion to do this across the state of Minnesota. To do nothing will cost us $4 billion, and it will harm countless Minnesotans. This is just good stuff. Not to mention, as the mayor was very clear about, our friends in organized labor, all these projects are going to be done with union labor at prevailing wage by skilled professionals. It's going to keep about 4,500 people busy for about the next decade doing this important work. For households, just each community will do it differently on how they're doing it, and the mayor's right. Duluth is one of the communities that's ahead of the game on this. St. Paul was a little bit out there too. One of the things that you're going to find is many folks don't know if they have lead or where it's at. There's money in this bill, about $20 million, to get that mapping out there. The better record keeping we have, the better it is. For homeowners who are wondering, you're going to get a lot of good information, as the mayor said, coming out. You're going to have the professionals letting you know about this. I think what you should know is that as the communities do it differently, in St. Paul, they've got a QR code on signs all around town, and you just click on that from the water thing, and you get in, you sign up. Some are going to do it different. They're going to hire professional contractors to do this. Some are going to do it, some of it in-house if they're able to do it. But what will end up happening, and what homeowners need to know is that this is to pay for your share of this in addition to the cities, so that the city doesn't have to rely on raising property taxes. Council members who are here, I know that's always good to hear from your perspective, that if we can keep property taxes low, that's a good thing. But for homeowners, it'll in some cases that they'll just pay for it on the front end, otherwise they'll be reimbursed the contractor for you. The good news on this is what people expect out of their government. This is going to make a difference in people's health. It's going to improve our infrastructure to where it needs to be, and we're going to see the good paying jobs coming out of this. It's really smart stuff. I think, again, we're seeing this. I just came from down in Pine County where we signed the ag bill. One of the things maybe getting missing in this legislative session, there's so much good work being done. How much of it's being done bipartisanly? This bill got 100% of the votes in the House, and it lost 2 senators. I'll be talking to their mayors in those cities to see if they don't want their lead lines replaced or what the situation was, but there's almost unanimous support. We signed an ag bill that had great bipartisan support. We signed an education bill that had large bipartisan support. These are smart things that are going on, and this is what we keep talking about of making Minnesota a best state to raise your children, have a family. Every house in Duluth in a few years is going to be lead-free, and that is going to make a positive impact. And all of that is going to be done with the help of the city, with private contractors, and with skilled union labor. With that, I'm going to turn to our friend Dan Olson from Liuna.
Thanks, Governor. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you and the mayor and everybody else for coming out today. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dan Olson. I'm the business manager here for the Labor's Union locally, and I'm the international rep for Labor's International Union North America for Minnesota and North Dakota. We are as excited as everybody else to see these projects going. They got started last year with the help of some grants and some programs that have already started. There was this particular project saw about 22 to 25 of these sites done last year, and there's roughly 85 scheduled this year. So with that, I'm proud to say that we offer that skilled construction labor force, along with the others, the operators, the teamsters, and anybody else, cement finishers that are involved in this process. But the most important thing is that we're part of it. We want to see this done. We want the safety of our community, and the amount of work and money that has been allocated to this project with Senator McEwen's leadership, like you mentioned, and Jordan, Representative Jordan. These things happen because of everyone. We don't do this on our own, but at the end, we need to come together and be happy that we started all this stuff. The partnership that the governor and your leadership to come to the end and sign these bills and give us this opportunity to expand in the safety of our community, in the statistics with the lead, all the testings and stuff like that. Those are back here or up here over my head. But the fact of the matter is, we all know that lead lines are bad for you. They should be replaced. We have the opportunity to do it. We want to be partners in it with labor in Liuna and all organized labor. We're friends with the community and the mayor and everything that's being done. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for your partnership. And I do want to bring in Jim Benning from the city city just to as a surprise.
You want to give them some specific how this done?
Yeah,
Jim? Like
just a little oversight of what
Yep.
we're doing.
I also just want to recognize that we have President Janet Kennedy from the Duluth City Council here, Councilor Mike Mayo and Councilor Therese Tomanek. Both Councilors Therese Tomanek and Mike Mayo are on the Public Utilities Commission, and so thank you also for being here, and want to thank you, President, for being here as well. Do you want to say anything, Jim?
I will, and I'm gonna.
You got to come up here, though, my friend.
Good job calling them out.
Sorry.
So, thank you, Governor. I have two very specialized staff with me today. Cindy Faulkner, who was hired specifically for the lead project. So her position didn't exist 2 years ago, and now that's all she does is lead. She's the one that's contacting every single homeowner in Duluth, answers all the questions. She's a one-person show that does a great job. And John Maruska, he is my field engineer.
Yay.
That if there's specifics on how this works, John's the guy. So I spend most of my time in the office, but these two are truly the brains behind the operation as far as the city part of this goes. So if there's any specific questions, I think I would defer to them.
I think Governor wants to hear a little more about what a homeowner can expect.
Yeah, so if I'm a homeowner, I get on and I see I have one of these and I call and they say, hey, we're coming out, we're going to be on your street. What happens here?
So first is identifying whether or not there's a lead water service line. We have a pretty good record of the publicly owned portion of the lead line, but we're still accumulating data on the privately owned portion. Until now, the city was not responsible to replace those. It was all on the homeowner. We have about half of them replaced. So if we identify either portion as lead, we're setting up projects by neighborhood, actually by census tract across the whole city. Once we get to your census tract, you'll get a letter. Someone will come out, take a look at the property, assess what's going to have to happen. We'll bid a package. On the day of construction, we're in the basement breaking a hole about 2 foot by 2 foot in the basement, digging 2 holes out in the street, one at the water main, one around the sidewalk where there's a valve for each house, and then in this case drilling between those 3 holes and pulling in a new HDPE water line. Duluth has a variety of geographies just from one end to the other.
It's a nice way to say it.
The lower areas are different soil than the hillside. There's rocky hillside. There's areas where there's more soil. We're planning to disturb as little of public or private property as possible, but there are some rocky areas and we'll have to excavate on some private property.
That's great.
Yeah, so generally, so far, it's about 1 day per house. This is just one contractor working right now, but we're planning to scale up with the new funding available.
What's going on behind you?
We've got our 2 holes dug. One shows the water main, and people can take a look at the lead line poking out there. And then in the second hole, there's a directional drill drilling underneath the concrete steps, under the porch, right into the basement of that house.
And do you say it takes? How long does it take to replace it for one house?
Ideally, the water's on and off in 1 day, with surface restoration in the week or 2 to follow. That's ideally. Every neighborhood's different. Every job's different. And again, this is a pilot project. We're still learning. The contractors are still learning.
So this is all just for that one house?
Correct. And then looking down the street, you can see the patches from the houses we've done earlier this week.
How much, you said that normally the homeowner would be on the hook for the cost of this. How much is this, is it costing? I mean, is it like $1,500? I mean, I don't know. How much?
Yeah, so costs vary on the house. Costs vary from city to city. This particular pilot project that we bid last year averaged $16,000 per address.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
And how much is the homeowner on the hook for?
$0.
Yeah.
This is the best part for the community.
That's part of this. Then we're using the budget surplus, and people are asking what we're doing in the budget. This was a big piece of it, and this is really interesting to watch it in Duluth. It is cheaper in some communities. We were saying in Duluth or in St. Paul, we were at a project. The street is very flat. It is very uniform, and the holes, they know exactly on each house where they're at because they're done the same way. That one's running them around, I think, $7,000 to $8,000 is what they said. But the cost is going to be about $1 billion. million statewide over the time we all, as we said, we do this. This first tranche that went in was $250 million. That should take about 4 years worth here. I think what we're going to see, this can be a really popular project. It's what people expect. And quite honestly, I mean, I think of this as a homeowner. And Mayor, you'd have to think of this. We know that the lead's in there, but it's hard to come up with $16,000 extra dollars for lead. And you never want to buy roofs or windows or lead pipes. You want to buy boats or cabins or send your kids to college.
Right.
And so we think this is a real good return for the folks here. These folks are going to see a $16,000 savings. And it's going to improve the quality and the sale of their house, too, when they get ready to, because in Minnesota, in a decade, every house is going to be lead-free. We will, with the leadership of mayors like Mayor Larson, Mayor Carter in St. Paul, we will be the first state to get this done. Michigan's really racing for it because, of course, Flint showed us exactly what happens if you don't do this. I was giving a statistic. It seems like it's just a wild one, but they did it. The Center for Disease Control did this. Some of you who are gray or no-haired like me, we used to have lead in our gasoline. It was estimated that lead in gasoline cost our collective IQ of the nation 3 points. Everybody went down 3 points. Sounds like it'd be a joke at a bar or something. It's not. It's real. And it was much more pronounced in communities of color and underserved communities where we saw it. That's the problems you had. You had the behavioral problems. You had the school achievement. You had some of those things, quality of life issues. So with these lead, again, no amount of exposure is safe. This will fix it. So excited.
Going ahead, money, about the money.
Yes.
Yeah,
The homeowners going ahead from here out, nobody's going to have to pay anything?
No.
Because you used our funds, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. So this is a pilot project funded through ARP funds, and thank you, funded through ARP funds, and thank you to counselors for your support and leadership in helping make that happen, and for the foresight of our staff to get ahead of this.
Yeah.
But yes, that is correct. So this is through that. Future projects will be funded through the state.
Okay.
Yep.
So if I've got lead, I'm going to get it out of there.
That's right. Zero.
Zero. Like that.
Yeah. So.
What's the process for cities to get the funding, and when can it start flowing?
Yeah, this is one I should have the authors here on this. Each city's going to do it a little bit differently. I think it's through that water fund that's there, the grant funding.
I think so too.
And it does go into effect right away. The bill was signed Tuesday, and they asked about that. They're ready to go. And like I said, some cities are just doing it where you get on the QR code. They're doing it by census tract here and moving on. It'll be done differently. And I wanted to make sure, and I think each city's going to handle this, this way, is we didn't want homeowners to have to put out money and wait for a refund check or something like that. So it's going to be all done through the city.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
And is there enough money to do every house in Duluth that needs it?
Well, if we have what we think is 9,000 homes, it isn't enough, right? So the funding that the state has made available is enough to get us a really good start, and I think that helps seed why we would need to continue. So $250 million, correct? And we think it'll be $800 million to $1 billion. So there's a ways to go. It doesn't get us all the way there. Yeah.
This is a preparatory set moment, as the teacher that I am on this is. This is why when people ask, why can't you fix everything with one-time money? Because it's ongoing costs that take longer, and that's the reason why this will be the first one. It's paid for. It's in the budget. It was originally written, and it's compromised. It was originally written $100 million a year for 8 years. We scaled back to get it done, make the budget balance at 250, but I see no reason that it will be there. As I said again, we had all but 2 people vote for this. It is very widely bipartisanly supported, very popular amongst citizens, and again, right thing to do and save money. Leave them in the ground. It'll cost you 4 times more, and in the damage it'll do. So we'll get them out.
On topic.
Do you know, this might be for the mayor, do you know of that $240 million, how much of it comes to Duluth?
No, we don't. I don't have the formula in front of me. That's something that we can look into and work with our team to get you something more specific. But that's, those are some of the details we are still learning as well.
Are you still on track to do $10 million worth of work this year in the 3 neighborhoods that you had identified?
So, we have applied for $10 million. Because of the timing of the funding, we're not on track to finish all of those projects that we've got prepared. We hope
4 separate projects for. It was bid as 4 separate projects at $2.5 million apiece. We plan on doing 2 this year.
Get the next
year. 2 in the next year.
And that's all federal funding.
State funding.
State funding. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How how much is the total cost for Duluth if you are to? I mean, I know you don't have a full handle on the.
Who's the math wizard here? 16 times 9.
You have that number?
I didn't hear the full question.
What is the?
I mean, so these are rough numbers. So, I mean, if we're around 9,000 and $16,000 per house, if that carries forward, I think it's somewhere around 100 million. But there might be an economy of scale that if we get competitive contractors bidding on this, that goes down. There might be some areas where that average price goes up. So it's, and like I said, we're still identifying all of the privately owned land in the city.
Did you do the math, Derek? Derek had his calculator out.
Yeah.
Are there other questions for Governor?
So then the plan would be to get more funding down the line?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, this we figured with the number of people we have, and it takes time to do it, as you heard, you're not going to get it all done. This should fund out about 4 years of projects or so, 4 to 5 years of projects. We hope it gets accelerated. We're seeing communities like Royalton have started on this. Smaller communities will get it. Obviously, it's going to be funded on per capita basis. Bigger communities like Duluth are going to need more money. They have more houses, but it's just a smart project. It's really good. I'm really proud of the legislature to take this on, and it once again singles Minnesota out. We're, along with Michigan, as I said, we're really the 2 states that have the clearest. It's really interesting when you look a map of where this is. The upper Midwest has the most of these. Not surprising to you, some of the western states, because they're newer, they started already phasing out of lead. So all the new construction that goes on in Arizona, Sunbelt states, were not lead. So you're seeing it mostly up in the Northeast and the Midwest. And I think it'll be Michigan and Minnesota are the ones that are really going to. And again, the tragedy we saw in Flint, Michigan, just unacceptable. So I really appreciate the leadership. I think it's a bold move where we saw communities go on the front end of this, and I think that kind of inspired the legislature. I'm pretty certain Senator McEwen got the idea by living in Duluth when it was happening, and brought it to the legislature to make it happen. So great.
I'm just going to say we have the project on pause while we're talking, right? We want this house to get back connected. So were there other questions?
A little bit of off topic.
Yeah.
If,
Sure.
there is any.
Would you entertain a question on the rebate check?
Sure.
We're hearing chatter from our audience that they're disappointed with it.
Yeah.
You asked for $1,000, it's significantly less.
You get $1,000 for a family of 4. The case I'm making on this is you got about $6.5 billion worth of tax cuts in here, $1 billion of property tax cuts. You got an 80% total elimination of Social Security, up to over 90% won't pay very little in state tax, plus the investments in education, in lead line removal. It was a compromise we made with them. I think the $1,000 back in people's pockets. I will make the case that the biggest investments we're making, I think, are pay off in the long run. We are going to have the child tax credit that is not only nation leading, it's global leading in terms of removal of childhood poverty. We're going to see families that are most in need are going to get this. And I've said it from the beginning, no, if you are a millionaire or you're making that kind of money, if you're in 4th tier, you're not going to get a tax cut, but your neighbors are going to get the lead out of their house. Your kids are going to get an education down there. We're going to pay the people at the nursing homes a little more. So, I argued for a little bit more. I think in the compromise at the end, it's good. I will encourage everyone. Now, what's different about this proposal than what I had is that children are on there. It can go up to $1,300 for a family. If you have 3 kids and 2 adults, it's $1,300 for them.
Anything else?
What are some ways that residents can kind of prepare and plan for kind of saving up on water as their pipes are getting...
Oh, that's a good question. You're off for a day. What do you do the day you find out you're going to get
if we can't have the homeowner... If we can't have the home back with water service in 12 hours, we're hooking up temporary, normally to the neighbor's house. And then people realize that the next day they might have to get water from the same neighbor. So so far everybody's been real gracious to the neighbors. And
so don't fill your swimming pool the day that you're doing it with your neighbor's water.
No.
So that's really impressive, though. They get it done, and I think it's something. We know that disruption's a piece of it. Anything else? Well, thank you all for coming out in the rain, and again, thanks to our workforce.
Yes.
There's still ice on some of them pools.